In this video, we're going to be writing sentences as compound inequalities. Then we'll graph the inequalities that we write. So in this first example, we have that a number u is less than 7 and greater than 3. So there's our magic word, the word and. So this tells us that we're going to have one x, and we're going to have two arrows pointing to the left. And we're going to have to look at our numbers now. So looking at the number 7 and looking at the number 3, we want to know which number is smaller. 3. So our smaller number goes on the left and our larger number goes on the right. So again, this is our larger number and this is our smaller number. Now the question is, do we need any equal to marks underneath our symbols? So if we look at the words, we see that we have strictly less than and strictly greater than, which means that we shouldn't have any marks underneath. So we'll have the final inequality right here. This will be our inequality, and now we're ready to graph it. So we're going to have our 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 2, 1, 0. So we're going to have an open circle at 3 and an open circle at 7, and because it's an and, that means that our points are connected with a line. Let's go ahead and let's try another one. Here we see a number d is less than -2 or greater than or equal to 2. So there's two ors in there, but here we see our less than, and there are greater than or equal to represents a symbol. So this or is going to represent that we have an or compound inequality. So to write an or compound inequality, we'll need two x's and the word or. So here we don't have to worry about what number is smaller or bigger. So we're going to go ahead and take our -2 and put that there. And we're going to take our +2 and we're going to put that here. So now the question is, what symbol should we use? So our first one says that d is less than. Oh, we're using the letter D, not X. So really, those should be D's. And I guess that means that on our first one, we shouldn't have used an X. We should have used the letter U. Okay, so D is strictly less than -2. And then it says or greater than or equal to 2. So greater than or equal to will have our line under it. So now we'll take our -2, -1, 0, 1, and then our 2, and we can just list a couple of numbers past, -3, -4. So we're going to have an open circle at -2 and a closed circle at +2 because it was greater than or equal to. And because it was an or, our arrows will point away from each other. So here we have our compound or inequality and its graph. Let's do some more. So here we have two more examples. So our first one says that a number s is no less than -2.4 and fewer than 4.2. So we find our keyword and. So this tells us that we're only going to use one s, because we have the s, and then we're going to need two arrows to the left. So we have two numbers. We have -2.4 and +4.2. So which number is smaller? So the smaller number goes on the left. So -2.4 is smaller than the number 4.2. So let's take a look at the words no less than. So less than. But when it says no less than, think of it like money. If someone told you you're to take no less than $5, then that means you could take $5, but you couldn't take 4. So here it's saying no less than, meaning you can have -2.4, that's fine, but nothing smaller. So here we'll use less than or equal to. Now let's look at the word fewer than, and fewer than 4.2. So if someone told you that you should get fewer than $10 to help, then if you get $10, you know that that's not right. You could get $9.99, but you couldn't get $10 because it says fewer than, which means that's strictly less than. And so here we now have our compound inequality right there. So when we go to graph that, we'll have negative 2.4, and then maybe our graph goes negative 1, or sorry, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, we kind of ran out of room there. So we could move it down if we want. We might be able to get it if we did that. Or we could even kind of skip some numbers. Let's just move things down though to make it easy. Okay, so I moved everything down one. And now we're going to make this, let's see, maybe we should move it down. You know, this is a great opportunity. What happens if that happens? So what you could do is you could, let's take all that away. You could say, okay, that's negative 2.4, and then you're going to have a 0 in between, and then you've got your 4.2 over here, and you know that this is going to be the number 5, and that's the number negative 3. And don't worry about filling in the other numbers, and that's okay. I mean, you might want to check with your teacher and say what they want, but you don't need to. As long as you have the general idea, you know what numbers are between 0 and negative 2, and what numbers are between 0 and 4.2. So when we go to make our points here, we're going to have a closed circle at negative 2.4 and an open circle at 4.2. And because it's an and, then our points will be connected. So let's take a look at this last example. Here it says a number C is more than negative 4 or at most negative 6.5. So we've got our word or, our keyword. So that means we're using a C, not an X. So C or C. So two C's and the word or. And we're going to use the numbers negative 4 and we're going to use the number negative 6.5. And it doesn't matter which one is smaller or bigger. So here it tells us that C is more than negative 4. It doesn't say more than or equal to or at least negative 4. It says more than. So that's going to be strictly greater than. Then it says at most negative 6.5. So if it says at most, that means it can be negative 6.5. It just can't be more than that. So we're going to have less than or equal to. So here we'll put our points. We'll put our negative 6.5 is smaller, so we'll put that first. We'll put our negative 4. And we know that a negative number between them is negative 5. And something bigger than negative 4 is 0. And something smaller than negative 6 is negative 8. So we're going to have an open circle at negative 4 and a closed circle at negative 6.5. And because it's an OR equation, that means our arrows will point away from each other. Notice how these ones here that we did were a little trickier to do because of the words they were using. Sometimes it's easier to think of those with money. Like no fewer than $4. What does that mean? Could you get $4? Or at most $6. So could you get 7, or is 6 going to be the most you can get? And that's an okay thing to do. But so that's how you write compound inequalities from sentences.